Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, Matthew, Eli, Adam, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Let's get it on.
Discord gang.
Hello from Discord.
Hello, good to have you all. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nothing to vary and manipulate. Lots of natural phenomenon to observe, but you can't prove the cause of anything really with just observation.
We're not even asking for proof, though. We're just asking for a viable hypothesis. So a suppositional statement of cause and effect, A causing B. And if they went out of their way, they'd give you the null. You know, A doesn't cause B, but that's inferred anyway. All you need is, here's what we're looking at. That would be a phenomena. What do you think caused it? That's it. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking them to validate it. Literally, all we're asking for is a viable hypothesis from any of those fields. That's astronomy, cosmology, and astrophysics.
Well, hypothesis would have to be testable, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to do that?
Well, that's not my problem. They're the ones claiming that they've got scientific validity for this crap. When they say that we're on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum, they used to in this arena. I mean, I'm sure they sell this crap out in the outside world now, that the science backs we're on a spinning water ball. Science has proven it. Science tells you, etc., etc. Okay, what's science? Well, the establishment of a cause and effect relationship with a systematic methodology known as the scientific method being applied to a phenomena. That would be to say you assume the cause of the effect of the phenomena and vary it. That's an experiment. That's science. So let's have some. Be a ball. What's that? There isn't any. How would they ever? Well, don't claim it then. What they've got is pseudoscience. Say again, Neil.
That's 6th grade science, Nathan. It's advanced since then. Come on, get with the times.
Well, beyond the empiricism offered by the method. Well, if you're going to claim science, why? Well, because science is empirical. And if you're going to make that claim, you're only going to hijack it for the positive reasons that you have when the attributes of science are actually applied. And what are those? Well, empiricism. You've proven things. So why would they say all of science has got your back on this ball thing? Well, because that implies empiricism. Oh, well, science has evolved beyond empiricism. Well, don't lean on the idea of having science then. We infer that doesn't have the same weight, does it?
How do you think you have a show? You're running your computer. Look at the advancements science has given us. Why are you being so ignorant on this? It advanced past the cause and effect. Now we're space traveling. We have a rover on Mars because of science.
That was a lot of nonsense to unpack. We don't have a rover on Mars because that would involve the light in the sky being soil.
I've seen it on the telly.
What, the light in the sky being soil on the telly? Well, that would also involve us travelling through a sky vacuum where the gas we're breathing at high pressure would expand at a high rate into that area of volume, leaving us with no gas to breathe. We'd all be dead if we were travelling through the sky vacuum. There isn't a sky vacuum. So everything you said was nonsensical, but none of it is science. If you're going to infer that we can travel to the middle of the ocean and dive down into the bottom of it, then that would be a technological claim, not a scientific one.
Right. The field of study of a rover would be in robotics, mechanical and electrical engineering.
You got that from science, though.
Right. But that is not astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
Any scientific evidence of gravity, as that's where we're ultimately heading here, isn't it?
Well, Dell has the Earth moving upwards, so there is no gravity. It's not needed.
Sorry, one man has an extraordinary claim without evidence to back. Therefore,
It's not
we
just
don't-
one man.
I don't care how many people make an extraordinary claim. How much evidence for the extraordinary claim do we have?
The fact that you're not teeter-tottering all over the place is the proof that Earth is rising upwards.
The fact that unicorns aren't attacking the Earth proves an argon gas layer protecting us from the unicorn attack.
The equilibrium tells you that Earth is rising upwards.
The solidarity in humanity that is not being attacked by unicorns proves that there is a protective unicorn layer.
It don't work in free fall.
Hold on a
There's no
second.
relative density in free fall.
Sorry,
The equilibrium,
go on, John.
I was going to say that the equilibrium we experience. Did you say that again, Neil? Like, I think that might be the one with the equilibrium.
Dell said your equilibrium tells you Earth is rising upwards.
Right, being in equilibrium means
doesn't.
nothing's happening.
Right? What the hell did he just say? That's what I was like, he don't know what these words mean, apparently. I don't know.
Anyway,
Right. Words like gravity. What is gravity? Because I
well,
don't know what that word
that's
means.
the positive assertion that the majority of the Western worldview hold in regards to us being held to the side of a spinning water ball flying through a sky vacuum. Gravity used to be, 108 years ago, mass attracting mass. So the mass of Earth holding your mass to it so you didn't fly off into a sky vacuum. 108 years ago, that was superseded by Einsteinian fourth dimensional space-time bending, a pseudo-geometry describing a pseudo fourth dimension based on time that folds and bends to give rise to a non-force that doesn't do anything in physical reality and only exists and operates in mathematics. So that's what gravity is, I would say currently, but for the fact that that has speeds of light that are debunked by quantum mechanics. Probably why we're here.
Very nice. So it's a mathematical description of a fourth dimension that we don't experience in order to explain some effect in our third dimension. That's strange.
An effect that we don't experience in our third dimension, that would be that all things tend towards the ground.
They do.
What about the clouds and the gases that surround us?
We're not talking about gases. We're talking
We
about
are. We're talking
physical
about all
objects.
things. That would be all things. Gases would be included in all things. Clouds would be included in all things. Helium balloons would be included in all things.
Okay, material things that are dense, more dense,
So
like a leaf falling from a
the
tree.
clouds that produce the very life-nourishing water that you consume, that's not material things. I'm going to go with the sky and its stuff not coming down, but in fact being produced by the gases going up, annihilates this claim that things tend to the ground. They don't. If you assume they do, and then further to that assumption, start explaining why things don't do things, making apologetics for why things wouldn't happen but would if it wasn't for your assumption of an outrageous claim of Earth moving up, well, then they've got you, haven't they? Because you're already into a paradigm that has an alternative, the norm, not being in effect, but only having all things go down as a result of Earth moving up, when not all things go down.
It doesn't work in free fall, Nathan.
What about free float? You're ignoring the free float. In the pre-show, I made a very specific, also outrageous claim that Earth is moving down to create the effects of clouds and helium balloons and lift. We wouldn't have flight if it wasn't for free float and Earth moving down at 9.8 meters per second, because obviously we have free float. Have you not noticed the clouds? Yet this is the contrapositive, equally outrageous claim that Earth moves down. And I obviously believe this. I'm not just taking the piss out of a Scotsman.
Hello?
Hey, Owen.
My sound's finally come through. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. with the relativity thing, because that is like pseudo-Riemannian gravity, the only thing that's ever been connected for me in stories by astrophysicists and all that about it is like, oh, it's just that thought experiment of, oh, look at the motion, and I'll think that it's not you that's moving, but the other thing. But that isn't, it's not even describing an effect. It's just an observation and then another perspective of approach that is purely conceptual. It like pseudo-Riemannian force space doesn't do anything. The gravity doesn't do anything. Like they just provide you with a distraction where you're considering something that's happening from another perspective. That's all they ever do.
In numerical terms, it's even more simplistic. They just move the scale one. So equilibrium or fall arrest, however you want to describe it. You, as an audience member, sat now. Just raise your hand or put a number 1 in the chat if you are watching this show and currently falling or rising in altitude. That would be to say rising up in a hot air balloon or falling from the sky. Just let me know by way of a number 1 if you're not just pretty much sat where you are or not moving anywhere. I mean, you might be mulling around a bit, but you're not falling or rising. Yeah, but
No, but you don't get it, Nathan. We are being pushed to the ground because the ground is accelerating up against us. And that's why we keep pushed against it.
In your experience, you're not falling, therefore not going down, and you're not going up, rising, accelerating up either. You're just in arrest, fall arrest, equilibrium, if you want to call it that. Either way, I was going to say with gravity, they just move the scale 1. So instead of equilibrium or fall arrest being 0, not doing anything, we're going to call that 1. That would be to say that there is a force of 1 when you are being pushed to the ground. Okay, so that's 1. What should we call it? We'll call it 1G. Okie dokie, everybody's clear. So when you're in free fall, that would be hurtling towards your death from a high altitude. We're going to call that 0. That's 0. It's like 0G, like nothing pulling you to the ground at all. It's like, you know, if you were in a plane and that was hurtling to the ground, you had no windows, with respect to the plane around you, you'd be floating around. The fact that you're hurtling towards your death, and unless you pull out of that parabolic maneuver, you will die, is irrelevant because that's 0. See the example floating around? Yeah, that's 0. See how I just moved the scale 1 and suddenly falling, hurtling towards my death with a very definite acceleration. That's not really falling at all anymore. That's 0.
Yeah, but
Equally,
Nathan, if you then
I'm nearly
strap
there.
rockets,
Equally, I can move the scale the other way, can't I? So instead of 1, I can say -1. Well, why is that? Well, because the ground's coming up. Is it? Yeah. Or I can do it the other way and go back with gravity and say it's not that we've got a force of a bending pseudo force space or a mass of an earth pulling to us towards it at 1G. I can say that, well, why not? The ground's falling away from us. And the contrapositive force of the ground going down and the air therefore being pushed up would have a, described with relative density disequilibrium, force that makes things that are more dense than the air go down. In other words, the reason things fall to the ground if you pick them up, yeah, is because of, what did I call it again, John? I can't remember the opposite of free fall. Go on.
Free floatity.
Free float.
Free floatity.
Yeah, free floatity. Because of the force of free floatity. You know, if it wasn't for those clouds having the ground fall away from them constantly, you know, you wouldn't have the contraforce to make things that you pick up drop towards the ground as the air rushes away from them towards the clouds as the ground falls away 9.8 meters per second, or whatever arbitrary value I ascribe to this outrageous claim that the ground's going down to give us the uppity force of free float that's obviously there when I move the scale the other way. Because why not? You know, if it wasn't for that -1 force, we'd be at 0 and we'd all be floating around. If the ground wasn't going down away from you, we'd all be floating around. It'd be chaos. You're hearing me, lickspittle.
Nathan, what about -1G?
That's what we've got with the ground falling away. Didn't you hear me? Are you not getting this? Because you don't understand. Now get nay fuck.
No, but I mean, come on, -1 g, like that shouldn't be possible. But
See,
if you
audience, he
strap
just
a
doesn't
rocket to
understand this
yourself-
stuff. He doesn't understand it. It's beyond him. Here in his echo chamber, not listening to people.
What?
You just don't
I get it.
understand. You
Maybe you don't
see, he's just
understand.
demonstrating how
I get it.
ignorant he is. It's just demonstrating his ignorance. This is obvious to most of the people out there. This isn't some tactic. The ground's moving down, Arwin. You just don't get about the... Bloody hell, I wish I could get this concise about a character immediately. What is it again, John?
Floaty float. Upward float.
Free uppity, or no, free floatity.
No, it's a worthy model to compete with Dell, with how much sense his conception
Absolutely.
makes.
Let's get into this.
Let's
Exactly. Oh,
So-
thank you, Arwin. Perfect. Let's get into this false dichotomy. As flat earthers, let's argue about whether the ground's falling away or moving up, whether it's because of the free fall or because of the free float. Obviously, Dell and I agree that if his +1 scale or my -1 scale weren't in effect, we'd have chaos. So we're both in agreement. I mean, it's got to be one or the other, right? Meanwhile, we got dicks that think we're spinning and there's forces holding them the side of a water ball that's flying through a sky vacuum. Yeah, but let's just argue this in false dichotomy with Dell. Nah, I'd just rather take the piss out of him. Much more fun. Then we'll get on to the more pressing business of a Western worldview that we're spinning and held to the side of a spinning water ball, rather than some crazy-ass Scotsman's outrageous claim that we can literally just take the piss out of. I mean, that's just definitely not of a high concern to me.
Nathan, he's got demonstrations. What do you have?
I've got a demonstration. I don't even need to do anything. The clouds are always there, proving the ground goes down. Do you not see the clouds, lickspittle?
Oh, Nathan, you have to.
Sorry, did I have to drop a bottle? Did I have to
Yeah,
do
you have to
anything?
strap your
Are the clouds
mobile to
there
the
or
water
not,
bottle.
lickspittle? Nobody's answering me. It's because they're all scared. It's because they're all ignorant. It's because they don't understand. It's because it's so obvious. It's because they've spent so much time in their echo chambers. They don't realise that I don't even have to drop a bottle. I look at those clouds and know damn well the ground's falling away. What else could it be? There'd be chaos if it wasn't. You having fun, Dell? Me too.
It doesn't count if you don't strap your mobile to a water bottle and then throw it out of the window.
I keep telling you I don't have to do anything. The clouds are proving the fucking, what's that term? Free fall. Free float.
Free float.
Free float. I'm proving free float every time I look out my window, sunshine.
No,
Hey,
you
Jimmy.
don't. You're not
Okay,
varying
Jimmy.
and
You hearing me,
manipulating
Jimmy?
it. You're not varying and manipulating it.
I don't need to. It's there already. Like I say, I don't have to toss some scraggy ball out of a car window. I don't need to do anything. Mine is much
Yeah,
more
but you
obvious.
said prove. You said prove,
looking
though.
up.
Yeah, I do. Just by looking up, you just have to tilt your head to prove the ground's falling away from you, Arwin. I don't have to chuck a bottle out of a window, mate. Yeah.
No, but hold
Right.
on. You can point at the cloud to
Yeah, so can you,
disprove a
mate.
claim. Oh,
So can
God,
you,
you.
Jimmy. So can you, and that proves it. You there with us now? You with us, Lickspittle?
Hello. When you point at a cloud, you can use that to disprove a claim somebody else makes. But if you're going to have your own model and point at that cloud, well, you're still kind of making a claim for a model, and just pointing at a cloud is not varying and manipulating it.
No.
So
Let's not
as
get,
a
no.
disproof,
I am not making a positive assertion, and neither is Dell. Right?
No,
Let me finish. The people who are making an
outrage.
outrageous claim here are the people that say nothing's happening. When obviously nothing's happening. If you're not floating up or going down,
Yeah.
it's only because we're upward accelerating Earth or downward falling Earth. I mean, it's only because of them, because we'd have chaos if it wasn't one or the other.
I wanted to argue within the false dichotomy because Arwen is denying that I can boil water and make steam go up,
Yeah.
which proves, I can vary and manipulate up.
up. But up is a direction. That's not a natural occurring phenomenon.
So you
It has to
admit
be
it.
something
So he
that-
admits it, ladies and gentlemen. Up is always a vector. Always. You heard it. You heard it. Trim that out. Proof. Earth falling. 9.8 meters per second. It's accelerating away from you. They're always that vector's always in effect, isn't it? There is always an up, isn't there, Arwin? Always.
What?
There's always. You
Excluding
just said it,
gases.
Jimmy.
You're
There's
giving me a
always an
headache.
up. Is you telling me there's not always an up?
Always an up.
There
Well,
you said it again.
The density
Trim that out.
gradient definitely has that vector. Yeah.
So there's always an up. So I'm proving it over and over again. Why aren't you, Lickspittle, not getting
But
this?
there's also
The ground's
a down.
falling away. They have to talk through it. Like, it's because they're scared in their echo chambers.
It's going down though.
It
Yeah,
only goes
because
down
of
because
the
it's
up.
because it's going up.
Because of the up,
Yep.
Arwin, obviously.
Yeah, that's very tiresome. Don't fully go Dell, please.
You never
Listen,
go full retard.
Excluding gases, everything goes down.
Excluding solids and liquids, everything goes up.
Yeah.
And what's your point, Neil?
The clouds are not gases though. They're droplets. They're actually liquid and they don't go down.
Good point, arguing. Let's argue about this for the next 3 hours. Meanwhile, the Western world is still under the impression that mass is attracting mass if they're educated to a high school level, or that the bending pseudo-Riemannian force-space-time described by Einstein causes a non-force force that you can think of as a force that holds you to the side of a spinning water ball in a vacuum. What's that you say we should argue with, Jimmy? Nah.
An emerging force.
From the majority of the Western world, not from some small little clique of weirdos that think that the Earth's rising up. Yeah, we got big fish to fry here. So any science,
Bell's always welcome.
all are welcome. I say it every day. If somebody's got some extraordinary claim and they want to present it here to have their ass handed to, no worries. We'll just take the piss out of you. No shame.
Why
We've
do you-
lost all empathy for you. Yeah, we had enough of it in about 2017, 18-ish. Now we have zero empathy. We're just going to take the piss out of you.
That's pretty cocky for you to think that right away you're going to hand their ass to them. Maybe he's got something here.
I've
Why
already
don't
heard
we
it all.
hear the guy out?
I've already heard it.
Right. But if he's got an extraordinary claim, he has extraordinary evidence to go with it. It's not like he's just going to fill up a bottle of water and throw it out of, throw it. I mean, that would be dumb.
That would be
Not
silly,
throw it, drop it.
especially when
You're
there's the
missing it.
clouds like right outside. I mean, I don't even have to fill up a bottle, do I, to prove that the ground's falling away at 9.8 meters per second. It's really easy. You should look up, and there they are, proving the upper
You
T.
don't even have that right. He does not throw it. He lets it go.
Yeah, I can do the same
Well,
with the
could be-
helium
is there a
balloon.
claim?
Yeah, I do the same with the helium balloon and make the same claim.
But that's gases.
But that's
Well,
solid.
yeah, but see, I can.
Look,
I'm-
guys, can I say something? Throwing a bottle down what Dell tries is no better than presupposing that the Earth is spinning because of the angles of the sun. I mean, it's literally that. It's a presupposition. It's pointless. And he doesn't get it.
That was the point of what me and Nathan were doing, was to make fun of that.
No.
I get it.
I was super serial.
You were giving me a headache, man.
No videos today? Are we still doing housekeeping?
I haven't got anything planned. We've been chatting for about 2 hours. John and I, that we were chatting about people being electrocuted, so it probably wasn't suitable for live shows. I don't know how. Oh yeah, because of the voltages of computers. Anyway, we had some good stories. Some of it made it to the pre-show. Check it out if you're a member. But there's knocking on 100 people watching, so we should really have something to talk about. I can run through housekeeping questions if it's going to develop more of a conversation. Does Adam
Sure.
have anything to say on this? He hasn't said much. You sure he's on the side of... God, I'm going to have to remember that term. It's just not going to be... It's never going to flow with character. If I can't remember the damn term, I'll have to ask John.
Freefloat.
Free float. I'll get it. I will get it, I promise. Free float, free float, free float.
And if you're going to talk about it within a mechanical sense, it needs to be floatedy. Because,
Floatity, yes.
you
Is
know,
the floatedy sticky or isn't it sticky?
Well, I think the Arwinian always up force that you described earlier and conceded is definitely something that we can ascribe to you. You know, there is always an up, Arwin. No one's ever going to deny that, are they? Look at
What?
the- That's the
How
that's the
dare you?
Arwinian up.
There
Screw
has
you.
to be. There has to be an
Has
up
to be.
because we're stuck on the ground.
It's not
That
our
reason
Reason why we're
Arwinian.
stationary.
Exactly. It'd be chaos. Anyway, we've done this enough. Hope you all enjoyed that.
No
If there's any
Arwinian up,
fans of Dell
dude.
out there, right,
No
look,
Arwinian up.
it's all in good fun for us. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to roll through some housekeeping questions? What do you want me to do?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
What is the sun?
It's soil.
Well, you don't have to know what something is to know its distance.
Well, it may be an effect, and
Just
we
said-
only have angular data.
Soil, same as the light called Mars. Soil. We could land on that, the sun.
Yeah,
light
the
in the
sun is
sky.
a solid gas.
So it's soil. Like coal, maybe.
So
you
you're
know.
saying we can't get to the sun if
No, I'm
we
saying
shoot
we
a
can.
rocket?
And it's made of coal, and we could stand on it. That's what I'm
An
saying.
old friend of mine used to call it the copper duck.
When did you get out of the
That's gonna-
asylum?
That's going to start a movement.
Koperen ploert. I don't know. Some people apparently used to call it that. It's a copper duck.
It's a solid gas giant.
In a sky
Well,
vacuum?
that can't be, right? Not in a vacuum.
It depends. I mean, if it's sat in
Well,
a
you never
bed-
heard about solid gases? Yeah.
That's a contradiction in terms.
Solid gases.
So just
Well,
rather
if you
than,
don't,
rather than blindly running through the housekeeping questions, and fun though this sun question is, has there actually been any progress in respect to elevation angle measurements off a curved baseline? And let me preface this by saying, what we have had so far in response, and Matthew Learns is the most recent. Maybe I need to change the thumbnail on that video. I put a lot of work in. It's hardly had any views. Anyway, they come and affirm how flat Earth must be. Dave Triangles McKeegan is another example. Protothad, MC Toon. They're all done the same thing. They've come along and shown just how flat Earth has to be. So, is that what we're going to get from here till the end of this discussion? Just Globers coming along and throwing a flat Earth at us to try and prove it's a sphere? Because it seems like a bit of a crazy state of affairs, and I'm not 100% sure that the people who are onlookers necessarily get this. Sometimes things that seem obvious to us, the audience might not necessarily realise that literally what we've had since the elevation angle argument was first presented is Globers coming to us and going, it's got to be flat. Look how flat it's got to be. Use this bit flat and that bit flat. How does it work on a flat Earth with all these flat bits? That's where we're at. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating with that. That is exactly how it currently is.
Yeah,
Should've-
they have a lot of trouble figuring out even how we see the realm, right? So they're always making these really stupid primitive strawmans that just seem like they never went beyond just making a little model out of a piece of paper with a bunch of strings or something. Because they always get it wrong. So they never actually listen to when we try to describe what we think about the realm. They don't actually listen to that.
That a language thing. When you said strings, do you mean chord lines? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I
Like
thought you were.
pieces of paper, a very primitive model that you could just.
I knew what you meant, but when you said, yeah, chord lines, I know what you mean. I've known Arwin well enough to know where that subtle change in tone, where you knew you got the wrong word. You mean chord lines. Brian's not here. No worries.
Okay.
I'm just being pedantic.
Well-
Sorry, not even pedantic. It's overly fussy about our language.
There's really that big of a difference?
Chord lines are a
What's
pretty
a
important
string?
part of their geometry when they've got to draw a line through Earth after taking elevation angle measurements off a flat surface, transposing it
Oh.
down to the equatorial plane, and then inferring that the flat line distance that they'll take is actually the outside edge of a protractor. Well, that, when they're describing how they can get it from the surface, results in a chord line. So that's how that argument goes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I was actually talking about just something you can do with glue and paper and a piece of string. Because of how the ballers see the flat Earth model.
Oh,
Right? They
okay.
always get it wrong.
So when you meant said model, you physically meant papier-mâché built on a crafting table model. And I
Yeah.
was thinking about the fantasy never to be produced sphere Earth in a vacuum model, where the equatorial plane is at its center for the angles to be taken from hell.
Now, I was talking about how Globers see the flat Earth model. And it just seems like they build it out of paper mache, really primitive. And that's where their questions come from, right?
no.
Why
it
can't you
depends.
see the sun all the time? right? That comes from that type of modeling.
Well, it depends on which model you're talking about, because if you're talking about their flat Earth model that they confuse as the celestial sphere over a flat plane, they talk about it. They pull their measurements from that. That's
Yeah. But that's not really involved in when they straw man us, right? What they think the flat Earth model is and where the problems are, and thus the questions they ask us about it, like why can't you see the sun all the time? Right? It's over a flat disk. Why can't you just see it all the time? Right? That comes from that straw man modeling that just seems like they built it out of paper mache and they never really looked into it that deeply.
Yeah, I think I get your point. That's what led me to sit across the table from Mark Sargent and say, look, your use of the azimuthal equidistant globe Earth projection. Now, in hindsight, that's still a flat Earth from a flat Earth to give you a globe to give you a flat Earth, but I didn't know that back then. My position to Mark was that it was detrimental. Now, he pleaded his case, and frankly, I think he put a very good case for the introduction to a completely new worldview with something visual to help you get there, as a pretty good argument in his defence. But I ultimately pointed out that it's a false dichotomy, a reification fallacy, and all the objection points, which he's since and subsequently incorporated in. But that works off the back of that objection, right, Arwin? You don't, again, have a claim to be making in this regard, so why are you suddenly offering up how the sun works? Do you know what the sun is? Have you measured it? Have you gone to it? You haven't, so it's all based on inference, mostly off globe projections that needed the flat Earth to begin with, admittedly, but that I understand your objection, Arwin.
Right. Yeah, very typical issue that they have is that they think that the flat Earth sun is still a burning ball of gas, but smaller or something in a physical position, right? And that just like completely screws it all over, like the mechanics of it, when you even try to imagine it. So they basically project their presupposed claims about what they think the universe is onto the flat Earth model as they try to construct it. That's what they typically do.
Well, if they're going to show you anything that resembles a model, it'll either be the flat Earth celestial sphere, which would be, when they're talking about it, a disk floating through a second law of thermodynamics violation. So, of course, they want to put it in that context, because that's what the pictures they show you will be asserting that. So they have to deny it.
Right, controlled opposition. So in other words, if you've got certain aspects of your model that you want to retain, like gravity, the Einsteinian notion that Earth is moving up at 9.8 meters per second squared, that your 0g is you not accelerating down, but at a 0 point with respect to the force that's always in effect that's not really a force.
It's going to get really funny when we find some numpty reviewing the flat Earth model and then asking the question, how is that gas going to stick to that flat disk in outer space, flat Earth? I'm still looking forward to bumping into that one day.
Yeah, but that's a fairly common question. Containment. We must have it. It's an antecedent for the gas pressure we're breathing. Without a container, there can be no pressure. End quote, conspiracy cats. Well, that's why we have gas pressure. But for the containment, we'd be dead. We'd have no gas pressure. There must be containment. What is the containment? I don't know. Just know there's got to be some for the gas to be here at pressure. We're in a pressurized system. It's that simple. What are you going to say? That you can achieve a pressurized system without containment? Like your heliocentric model? Well, you say yes because the sky is a vacuum for you as a fundy ball believer. Oh, well, that's fascinating. Also a second law of thermodynamics violation.
Right. But in their mind, they think that, no. If gas is going to stick to a ball somehow, that's more logical than it sticking to like a disk, because the gravity on a ball is all equal. So that means that the gas would then equally stick to it and be like how we experience it. But on a disk, the gravity is all screwed up, and it's not like, the gas wouldn't distribute itself properly around the disk Earth. Right?
Arwin,
That's something that I'm expecting.
Arwin, on form as ever. We've got two concepts Arwin's managed to very sneakily juxtapose within his position that he's put forth in a funny voice. Sticking? What do you mean gases sticking to a disk versus sticking to a ball? Gases don't stick. They expand in all directions at a high velocity until they fill whatever area of volume they have to fill. They're not sticking. Fundamentally unstuck, in fact. They have no bonds. So when you say, how's it going to stick to a disk? Oh, that sounds like a very convenient position for a globe earther who has a claim of gravity to put against his position that how would the gas all stick to a spinning water ball in a sky vacuum? Well, I've got a force that's not a force. There's actually the bent medium of a space-time in a pseudo-geometry that holds it to the side of a water ball because we're in a sky vacuum and that proves we're on a ball.
Yes, in pseudo-Riemannian force space, it's like in a bowl. It's like sitting in a bowl because gases in pseudo-Riemannian force space are more like liquid, right? Within the fourth dimension. So it's just the gas is just sitting there like liquid in a bowl of the gravity.
Yeah,
Gravity is the bowl.
oh my God. Okay, Arwin. Jeez. Yo, so what you said before about them saying that it's like what did you say about the it doesn't make any sense with the disk, but they have an equatorial plane that's a disk. They also have the galaxy that we live in is also a disk, you know, also might be donut shaped as well. Then there's also just, you know, the entire everything that we know that is expanded so fast, faster than the speed of light, that everything is flat. So what's so hard about the concept of disks when there are disks everywhere in their model?
Because you have to do that. They can't actually look into our arguments. They can't actually look into the second law of thermodynamics argument. They just have to think of how they think of the gas pressure sticking to the ball thanks to gravity, even though they don't know how it would do that. And then think, yeah, it's equally distributed on the ball. And now, oh, it's not equally distributed on the disk with our version of gravity and how we think of it, and even though we don't know it.
Owen, let me paraphrase. Hold on. Hello. Let me paraphrase this question. That's what he's asking. He's saying, if you're going to offer up a controlled opposition narrative to be defended against by flat earthers in regards to a disk Earth flying up in a sky vacuum, why would you pose that as an opposition? How can I phrase this? Controlled op narrative for us to pick up. It's the only way I can phrase it. It's all a bit long-winded. When the majority of heliocentrism is based on a flat disk. So if you talk about the solar system, with the couple of exceptions of some certain orbits that they have incorporated, for the most part, it's a flat plane. And then you move out to further reaches, and it continues in that fashion. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have three-dimensionality in their ever-expanding infinite universe, but for the most part, their models are based on flat planes and disks, like Eli's describing. So how can that be an objection in the dumbed down for the mainstream, great and washed narrative? I think I'm answering your question there, Eli. Is what he's putting to you, when it's mostly disks and heliocentrism.
Those flat disks they use for the supposed galaxy, that's just maps, right? You can't actually map a complete 3D situation like that on a piece of paper, so they just project it into a flat disk.
That's not what they claim.
Unless you have a space plumb bob.
Space plumb bob for the space Texans.
They say that there's asymptotic.
Hold on, Arwin. Go ahead, John.
They say it's asymptotically flat as well. That's why we have flat galaxies.
What the hell was
that? Look like spirals.
I'm sorry to interrupt you after I've told Arwin off. Asymptotically.
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 Asymptotically. Yeah. What does asymptotically mean?
As an asymptote.
I wasn't asking you. You didn't say it. When you come up with a cool word, you can explain it.
From whatever reference frame you're looking from. So, like when they're describing the universe, they're trying to step into like an objectively flat universe is what they're. Because it's a word that's built on a lot of presuppositions. I'd have to define a bunch of other words first before. Let me get the actual definition, and I'll tell you how it applies.
Yes, please. In the meantime, my overriding question here is there any advancement in regards to the question in respect to any elevation angle measurement being performed from a curved Earth or a curved baseline or a curved adjacent? Has anybody actually got any progress beyond them throwing flatness at us, which is what's happened so far?
I think that people overall are just ignoring it and just thinking that it works, even though you wouldn't want to make a computer perform such an action because it will give you an error. But in their mind, they can still make it work. Right? Just think of the flatness as curved or the other way around.
That doesn't make the baseline flat. If you're measuring to GPs, I'm not going to get into the argument with you. We know the argument. But I'm saying there must be something from the ballers that's better than saying, yeah, we measure it flat. But then we put it in the middle of the ball and extend the plane called the equatorial plane out beyond the ball, and we measure angles out beyond the ball also when we're in the fiery pits of the central core of hell. And they go out to the the sphere that surrounds the flat plane that is the equatorial plane with the surplus to requirement ball and at the centre of in the middle of that model. That currently is all they've got. Well, that's useless because it proves Earth's flat and proves you're measuring angles flat. But I'm saying, have we not got an anti-flat Earth rhetoric yet?
Nope.
But it's
Just
worse than
celestial
that.
navigation in hell. That's it.
Sextants don't exist.
Arwen's
It's
saying,
worse-
I
let
think
me
I-
worse than
let
that.
me just stress Arwen. He's got his words out. I just don't want him to think they weren't heard. You're saying angles from hell is their rhetoric. I know. That's what I'm pointing out. But that's the mainstream rhetoric. Angles from hell, which is what they're now going to shout out to you, Daddy Faulkner. Yes, a Christian has given us this terminology in respect to the equatorial plane and angles from hell, Arwen. But that's the mainstream rhetoric. Where's the anti-flat Earth rhetoric? Normally we've got a glurf rhetoric to go alongside that makes no sense, like refraction.
Right. Well, I meant celestial navigation as a whole. I mean, on a globe, celestial navigation only works in hell. And they try to hide that by just not talking about it, as they literally draw it like that when they try to demonstrate how celestial navigation works. That's all.
How are you getting on with that definition, John?
I was about to say, it's raised. It's the way it's defined is the curvature disappears at long distances. Is the most simple explanation you can find from asymptotically. So when you're looking at the whole, it's flat.
Asymptotically means the curve disappears when you view it from distances.
I'm telling you, it's crazy, but that's what because they're talking about the difference between two different ideas of space-time, and so they say the curvature exists in this one model, but if you zoom out enough, it matches this other model, and they get the word asymptotically flat from that.
Fair enough, you learn a new word every day. It's very much a baller word, though, eh?
Oh yeah, it's deep in the religion. You know, you gotta be like talking to a Buddhist about Brahman. You know, you don't just talk about Brahman right off the bat. You gotta actually get into the religion to find that word. You know,
It's even worse than that, though, when you are talking about the elevation angles with them. They actually do state that they're not even claiming that they use the globe. They actually tell you that. They admit you can't use the globe.
I guess that is why it's the end of the argument. If it was ever an argument to be had, that would be why it's the end.
Okay, what are we going to do? We're going to do some more housekeeping questions? as we've got no 10th man
We
and
kinda
therefore
killed
no
it.
video to respond to.
We kind of killed the argument, Nathan. There's nothing left to respond to anymore. They're in agreement. Earth has to be flat to measure angles from it.
But that's why I kind of wanted to highlight it, because it is a weird position to sort of end on, in respect to say, no, the argument's dead since elevation angle arguments, because the response isn't just something that debunks the globe entirely. So refraction, okay, so you haven't got a geometric horizon, so that's the end of your globe geometry. But in this respect, they're saying, no, we've got to measure it flat. They're agreeing with us to such a degree that it's quite weird.
Well, isn't that the idea that Neil brings up, that, oh, that's 6th grade science, or, oh, the model you're talking about is archaic, and we built this more complicated model, or we've gone past empiricism, wouldn't it relate back to delusion because of that?
Yes, finally got it.
They just haven't developed it yet,
Yeah.
Nathan. They're working on the space sextant, which doesn't require a horizon.
Yeah, the Carta Marina is the problem here, because the Carta Marina, which is the charts of the sea, basically, that's what it means. It maps out the oceans, and that is what is still used today for navigation. I mean, in terms of the seas, that is, because it gives you distances to reference points, not only on the ground but in the sky, and this is how we navigate it. And it has been pointed out that it doesn't match the globe model. That's why they're not using the globe model. They need still to refer back to the Carta Marina, which is pretty much the what we talk about all the time. Locations on the ground and distances to it. All of that requires a flat plane,
Can't get around
and
that,
that's
right?
the big discrepancy. You can't go around that.
So we've got
And
nothing to
everybody
argue
that
about
comes
anymore.
on proves
Bloody
it. Sorry.
Go on then.
Yeah,
So
they are
I
in
was
a
just-
difficult situation because they have to contradict the current science, and that is a problem. But no one uses the globe model for navigation.
Yeah, I don't see any globes on naval ships. It seems like
The globe
everybody
is
that
flat.
comes on.
It was measured like that.
And the Greeks knew that.
Yeah. If I may just add this point, and that is, I think our target is to obviously end the conversation, debunk and destroy this heliocentric model. It destroys itself anyway. And there was another point I wanted to raise, and that is, beware of the tactics that they use in that they try to dissuade you from being a flat earther, in that, you're this science denier and things like that they use to try and keep us on that globe that doesn't exist. So ending the conversation, like, destroying their model, is our target, I thought. So it should be that you end it on that.
Yeah, but discovering the nature of our reality, as far as being a flat plane or a globular ball, falls outside of the scientific method, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
That's right.
when you point
Yeah, but
that
in this
out,
case, it's
though,
a
they will
geometrical plane,
deny.
isn't it? It's flat.
When you point out that falls outside the scientific method, they will deny that science proves anything, becoming science deniers.
Yeah, then why follow? Then the question is, why follow the science? If science proves nothing, why am I wasting my time following a science that proves nothing? We live our lives by proofs and evidence. That's the basis of our existence. So if we're going to follow a thing that doesn't prove anything, you won't catch me there at that party at all.
How do you prove
Well-
that science doesn't prove anything?
Yeah, exactly. Great question. Brilliant.
Put it from
Well,
the scientific method.
If it doesn't prove anything, then what does it do? That would be my question.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
we
it.
know that science does prove. It either proves or
It
disproves,
only
right?
proves that you cannot prove anything.
Well, that's the problem, though, right? Then
Crazy, isn't it?
It depends what you'll accept as evidence, George.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Yeah,
If
and they don't bring
all it
evidence.
does
It's not
is,
the same.
yeah, if all it does is disprove, then you're proving the null, but you don't test the null. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. They just have to give a crazy response because they're the actual science deniers at the moment you ask them for their science.
No, I think I got it now, John. I think I got it. When we say that it falls outside of the scientific method, that is the scientific method, but they have a different science, and it's called pseudoscience. So they try to prove their sphere using pseudoscience.
But it's all presuppositions in the first place, yeah?
Yeah, but if you just don't declare the first section of your begging the question fallacy, then it stops being a fallacy. I must change that Matthew Learns thumbnail.
Change it to Matthew Learns
tell you
Nothing.
what, that Matthew Learns, the way you edited that out, where he says the same thing, but one side he says it is begging the question, and on the other side of it, he says it's not. You know, I don't know how you could say that within the same video, you know?
I know what you got to do, John. You got to get an image
He's
of
very
him,
confused.
Nathan, an image of his face with the Pinocchio nose growing because he's a liar.
Yeah, that's certainly an idea. I do need to do something with it because it deserves more. The amount of work it had, it deserves more views. But that's my bad for not creating a good thumbnail.
Yeah. Still keeping it on the realms of space travel here. I posted a video a few moments ago. It's in there in the both Ball Blasters chat and the main chat. It's about this guy in Florida who lived under the water for 100 days. He mentors the preparation to Mars as part of the scientific research. Okay, it's quite interesting. It might infuriate you in places, but it's worth a watch. It's only like 20 minutes. Okay, for anyone who's interested. Guy spends 100 days underwater, breaking the record of 73 days prior to that one. It's all about he's living under pressure, 26 psi. We're living at 14. He's living at 26 under there. Interesting.
But you see the other thing, space traveling. You know, can you travel any other way with no space? I mean, it's
Well,
nonsensical,
yeah, very
all
true.
these
Very
claims.
true.
It's,
We're always
all these
traveling
claims is
through space
nonsensical.
anyway, yeah. Deep space. Supposed deep
But
space.
isn't that different pressure?
Mars.
Like below, like
200
when you go
days
down into
travel.
the ocean, is it a different type of pressure? Or is it the same as if you were going into outer space?
Well, he's living under the water, or has been living under the water at 26 pounds per 26 psi. That's what he was under there. Looking for medical cures. He's a biomedical scientist or something.
But if you're in the ocean, the pressure is coming against you, right?
Right.
So if you're in space, isn't it going away from you? Wouldn't it like blow up?
Well, there's
or
nothing
something?
there. That's right. Yeah, it's the opposite. But they're talking about being in a spacecraft for 200 days to arrive at Mars. And the word they use here, when we go to Mars, since we're going to Mars, everything's in the affirmative. Nothing speculative there. It's a dead cert. We're going to Mars, right? And they were talking about what it would be like in the spaceship. This is part of the test preparation.
Well, Jin, why would it be speculative? There's a rover on Mars right now. I seen it on the television the other day. They sent back images from a
Yeah, well,
rover on Mars.
But that's supposedly a robot. That's not
That
a
wasn't a
person.
friend of
rover. That
mine's
was a
Are they gonna?
force.
Are they gonna, according to the
well,
idea of
the
it,
ingenuity,
send
was it?
people?
Ingenuity, yeah.
Are they gonna be awake for 200 days, or are they put them into a cryo chamber, which would make it very easy to fool around with it?
Where is this all taking place again?
This is all taking place in a place in Florida, 22 feet underwater. That's all it is. In a
No,
100
I mean,
square
where are they
foot.
going?
That's a great answer, Jin.
In a Hollywood basement.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I have a good idea for a conspiracy to get started, uh, just to mess with the anti-flat earthers. Start one that all the anti-flat earthers are controlled opposition to make the globe look bad because of how contradictory they are in all their statements. So they're actually working for the CIA, trying to push the flat earth with their stupidity.
Sort of like the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah, but you just take the negative side of it and say that, where we state that that is a controlled op because of the stupid things they say to deter people away from flat earth. You take it from the globe side and say the anti-flat earthers are actually flat earthers because the stupid things they say are deterring people away from the globe.
How are you going to prove
Yeah,
it's on
very
purpose, though?
plausible. Very plausible.
Yeah, but how are you going to prove that it's not just by accident?
You don't have to. That's the beauty of it. Just like the other side doesn't have to prove that absurdity. I mean, just get people to accept it. That's all you got to do. Then it's watch the laughs roll out.
I don't know. I think it would probably spread more around flat earthers than it would do anything to anti-flat earthers. That's what they already think about us.
Yeah, but have you watched the video that Nathan stitched together of Matthew Learns yet?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but that guy's just crazy.
Right. They all have that though. They all have, I'd say every single anti-flat earther, you could put a compilation together of them contradicting themselves over and over again.
Right, well, they do seem to have upped the level of doublespeak, like in the last half year. That does seem to have happened because now they'll literally lay down. Multiple people have laid down how their conception is completely impossible, and then they don't oppose it with a counter argument. That's a new thing they do now. Really came forth with Keegan.
Curved is the new straight line. Bent is the new level. I mean, this is what's going on.
It's obvious, isn't it? Look at my horizon. I mean, my horizontal. Look how curved it is.
Bendizontal.
You know what I mean?
Look how level it is. Mm.
Yeah, it's curving level.
Yeah, that's right. It's crazy.
Nonsensical. It's been in our face all along, man.
You can't curve level though, because you wouldn't be able to get angle. Like eye level is what you pull angles from before you apply it in the celestial sphere. So you can't bend level or you destroy the model.
Absolutely. That's why it doesn't fit the Carta Marina. Because mariners, they know that longitude lines are lines that come from the GP of Polaris going outwards. And those lines, they need to be straight. They need to be horizontal lines, like north-south, east-west, the Cartesian system that we use. It requires the Earth to be flat and stationary in order for these things to work. That's why the contradiction with the globe model. No one uses anything based on the globe to navigate. It wouldn't work.
Another couple of tactics they use to dissuade you from your flat earthness is that they say you're not allowed to use your life's experience and the appeal to your qualifications. Are you a scientist? Are you a physicist? Do you have a certificate in this? You know, they keep doing that, don't they? And you're not allowed to use the years you've been alive to compare with, but yet you've got to follow the science. Blindly following is what they want. You must not use your life experiences to make comparisons so you can make a coherent judgment of your environment. You're not allowed to do that.
I was
That's
just going
wrong
to say, Jin,
in
if
their
anybody
eyes.
spent any time on the ocean, how could you still think that you're living on a spinning water ball?
It's true, isn't it? I agree. It's absolutely outrageous. It's so in your face, but yet you're blind and shut.
The best tricks are always
Yeah.
done in plain sight.
Yeah.
Like if you was to scale, John, you might be good at this. If you could scale down humanity to fit on a basketball, do you think you could have cities and railroads and everything built on a ball? Is it logical at all? To me, it sounds
Well,
like an impossibility.
It's impossible, isn't it? That's why I say it debunks itself. The very shape debunks itself. The creator wouldn't have created something that ridiculous. Come on.
well, the thing
Even
is,
put the ball at the end of impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
I was going to say, with the knowledge we have now, we can say that. But it's easy to see how you could confuse the horizon as being geometric if all you're ever doing is measuring an angle to it and charting that angle, right, based on your altitude. You could easily see how someone would say, "Oh, well, I'm not seeing the bottom half of that object in the distance, therefore it has to be blocked by something." And then when you chart that differential between two flat planes, but when you chart that differential, you start thinking, well, it's curving then. It's a really, really big curve, so that we're not perceiving it, right? Like when you zoom in on a part of a basketball and it looks flat, that one part, you know. So I can see how they went wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, but if when you zoom in on a basketball, yeah, it's still not nowhere flat.
That's right. It's
It can
not
appear.
flat, exactly. I
It's
mean,
worse than
does
that.
any
It's worse than that. You have a straight line to the horizon, and they call it a tangent. Yeah, look at my tangent line. See, a
yeah.
straight line to a curved line. So hold on a second. Where is the curved line again? You just said it's a horizon. So you have a straight line to a horizontal. So no tangent then. But they still keep on this tangent, you know? You need the curved line to meet a straight line to have a tangent.
I remember my childhood days where I used to play with angular resolution. I didn't know that's what I was doing. Didn't know those words because I'm going back to when I was about like 5 and 6 at my mother's kitchen counter and table, and you get the crumbs of bread and biscuit crumbs there. And when you're looking at it and you can see it when you're standing up, but as you drop down to the edge of that counter, things start disappearing from the distance of the other end of the counter. Now, I used to do that a lot as a kid. I remember myself doing that. That's why I bring that up a lot. Angular resolution. You see, now that's what they're talking about. That would be a curve. So the crumbs disappearing at the other end of the counter, that would be the curve, would it? When we know when it's clearly
Angular,
not.
you say.
Yeah. It's just an angle, isn't it? Exactly. It's not the curve as such. And they know that.
You're gonna
They
require a
actually
flat
know
plane for
that. Say that again?
You're going to require a flat plane for your angular resolution.
Yeah, exactly. And they know that. They know that. That's why they say the ship is being blocked by the ocean. That's the coverage. But it's angular resolution. We know that, and they know that. But again, it's trickery.
Have you ever seen an angle measurement below zero?
No, I've never.
Never. You guys are just focusing on the high energy short distance problems that we experience.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!